everyone. You're watching Managing Day to Day with me, Christina Laster, and National Parents Union. Welcome. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all thriving. Hello, America's beautiful children. We love you. And so today, I wanted to kick off the show with giving some helpful tips. And it is how accessible and welcoming is your child's work area. And I wanted to just share with you things that could help reduce frustrations, even by the little minute details of them not being able to find their items. And so here is a can that I actually got in the gardening area. And I am able to put supplies in there, scissors, highlighters, you see those, markers and crowns, colored pencils, and Elmer's glue right there. And it sits at my kids' level so that they can reach it. And then what I do is have the pencils right here in this plastic container, that's accessible right at their level, right by all of their work stuff. And because I do recognize, that some people still have the china out and the plastic on the couch, I want to make it fashionable. And so you can buy these bins that you can stick in shelves or whatever. But as you can see that my children's books are in there. I also have a small bookcase that allows them to go straight up to it and grab their assignment, or I set them out on the table. I do want them to know a level of responsibility. So it depends on, if I'm going to set it out on the table and it's all stacked up, ready for them to go, or if I give them a list saying, get this book, or this book. And in order to help facilitate mobility, I give a clipboard. So having those little essential things can really help you not become frustrated because, sometimes kids will be like, well, I couldn't find the book, or I couldn't see it, or I don't know what you're talking about, or I can't find a pencil. And you can say, you don't have to look for that highlighter because I have it all right here at your level where you can reach it. And that should help reduce some frustrations. So, like I said, again, you're watching Managing Day to Day with me, Christina Laster, National Parents Union. Today, I have a special guest. His name is Dr. Travis Brandy. Hello, Travis. Take your mute off. There we go.
Good morning, Christina. How you doing today?
I'm blessed because I'm breathing, sheltering in place, and I'm not sick, so we're good.
Absolutely.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm home as well, sheltered in place, working harder than I ever have before. But it's what I do for the students in my community, so I'm happy to do the work.
That's right, and I know you are. And so, can you tell everyone watching who you are and what you do?
Okay, so Travis Brandy. I'm currently the director of secondary instruction in a district here in Los Angeles, supporting about 10 schools and principals with about 5,000 students. The main role that I have is really working with principals to increase student outcomes. And so a lot of work around instruction, providing actionable feedback for teachers, and of course, really looking at student resources and access through the lens of equity. And so I'm really new to this role. Actually, just last year, I was a high school principal. So I know what many of my colleagues are facing as we shifted to this online learning platform, but there are people like me who are there to support them and really do the work on the ground.
And so, for everybody watching, I have to say that me and Travis, who I call the good doctor, but he said, have known each other since we're about 14, 15?
Yeah, about 14, 15 years old.
And I have watched him as a Black man thrive, but push, right? His journey just be amazing, him not give up. And so talk about what that journey looked like for you to get to where you are in a decision making position right now?
Right. So I feel like I have so many different stories about my journey and what I thought it was going to be. I tell you, when I was about 28 years old, I was teaching high school. I was teaching at a large high school in Los Angeles, and I was making decent money. And I only wanted to teach math, just teach math. But other people really saw something in me, and they were
Right.
pushing me. I remember my principal at the time. She says, "Mr. Brandy, I think that you really have a spark and you will be a wonderful administrator." And I was thinking, yeah, maybe, but I'm just going to go teach math. But
Right.
anyway, I ended up, moving forward and getting an administrative credential, even though I had no intention on using it, but I did. By the time I finished the program, a job opportunity was presented to me, and I was able to work in the Division of Special Education, which is part of my background. I taught special ed for several years. My master's degree is actually in special education, and so I definitely, again, equity. What are we doing for our students with special needs? And so I moved into that role, but I really saw that the place that I could really implement change was as a principal. But of course, you have to be
Right.
an assistant principal first. So I kind of shifted out of that district office role with the Division of Special Education and moved into a high school as a principal. I had a wonderful mentor that really pushed me to be great. And after 3 years of being assistant principal, I ended up at a high school as a principal, where I ended up being principal of the year. Believe it or not, 2019, I was a principal of the year. That was
That's
very
amazing.
exciting.
You deserve
Um,
it because you work hard.
and
I know you do.
and you look up this year, and I become the director of secondary instruction. So it's been a difficult journey. Definitely, I'm very proud of the accomplishments that I've made, but I've had a team of people supporting me every step of the way.
And that's absolutely necessary, right? And I know, like, we have these conversations offline all the time, like what it took, from even our elementary school days. And you and I were similar. We were both bust out, different things that took place, and we always evaluate how that affected us today.
Mhm.
Also, just our value system of valuing education and how even we value education to the point we came back and serve, right?
Yes.
Serve in an educational role. I left, my public education job to
Right.
become what I am now, which
Right.
is advocating, and it's still necessary though, and it's still necessary to have people that support you and have your back and surround yourself by those people, right? And so, you being a Black male in this space, have you felt that like your role has been taken seriously? You know, or do you feel like you get a lot of pushback?
No, I don't really think that I get a lot of pushback, but I do think that as a Black man, I have challenges that someone else may not have. My father taught me always be the smartest person in the room, and you really need to be able to speak with intelligence and know what you're speaking of, and you have to be able to deliver. You
Right.
never want to overpromise and underdeliver. So I do believe in being a man of my word, and when I say something is going to be done, it will be done. But there is the difficulty sometimes when you're the only person in the room who looks like you, and
Right.
someone we want to advocate for all children, no matter what. But we really have to focus our efforts and our resources on those students who are the most marginalized. And so you have to have the courage to have those conversations in those rooms.
And then so that takes a level of boldness and audacity, right? To have those conversations in spaces where you're the only person that looks like you. I've been there, only Black person, even through college, from elementary all the way to college. And I think that did prepare us to be able
Hmm.
to have those
Yes.
conversations in
Yes.
spaces, because that's what we were already used to, but, with regards to looking at how hard your peers have to work, to implement changes, and how hard you may have to work to implement changes. Talk about what that looks like from your experience.
So I really think it depends on the system in which you're working. And when I say system, that could be a microsystem like your particular school. So me as a high school principal, I can implement changes pretty quickly, and I can pivot left and right if things are not working. In my current role as a director, the changes are being implemented, but you have maybe 10 different leaders implementing that change in different ways. So a single school site administrator, I think, if it is their mission and their vision, they can implement it seamlessly, relatively quickly. However, when we're moving from our large vision, right? Every school district has a mission and vision, and then every school has a mission and vision. And so, how are we taking the big picture and looking at how we're rolling that out at our school? But then what are those very discrete things that we need to happen in our school community that only us as the principal are going to be able to implement and facilitate, and how does that work? And I think one of the big challenges is really investing people on your team. I do believe to be a good leader, there has to be a certain level of charisma, because you have to get
Right.
people excited about the work. If no one is excited about your initiative or your mission or your vision, they're not going to support you. So how do you really engage all of your stakeholders to make sure that they feel that same excitement that you feel, and they're ready, excuse me, to move forward with your vision and do that happily so?
And equity work, I haven't seen very many people get excited. Well, we might get excited over equity initiatives, right? But, how do you build a team that is excited to carry forth equity work and reach the marginalized students?
Mhm.
Talk about what that looks like as a principal on your campus.
hmm So as a principal, you really, focus, and what does the data say? So one of my big pieces when I was a principal was looking at my students with disabilities, and there's lots of research that tells us students with mild to moderate disabilities always perform better when they're educated with their non-disabled peers. And so what does that look like? So I wrote a grant, and again, not alone. I always have folks supporting me, but we did write a grant, which the grant funded professional development to support my teachers to build their capacity, because I did, as the principal, make an executive decision that we're going to move towards full inclusion for our students with disabilities. And people thought
That's
that
great.
that was really radical, and my special ed teachers mostly thought it was a good idea, but I would say that my general ed teachers were very afraid. They just didn't know. They definitely want to do what's best for kids, but they felt like they didn't have the tools to be successful. And so that's really why we started that PD. So I made a decision that we were going to be full inclusion, but we spent an entire year to prepare. So that's an example you mentioned earlier, instituting change, and how long does it take? It depends on what the ask is. So for me as a principal to ask for my whole school, comprehensive high school, to be full inclusion for mild to mild disabilities, took preparation and planning. And so we did a full year of support for teachers. And I personally handpicked all of my teams, and we had co-teachers, still have, actually, they're still moving forward in English, math, and science for ninth grade. So algebra 1, biology, and then English 9. And so we had three sets of teachers: one general ed teacher, one special ed teacher. They worked together, they collaborated, they had a common planning time. And then we also were able to cohort the students, so the students moved together in a group. So that was year one. Year two, we added social studies. World history is the social studies class that we offer for our sophomores. Another push that was, again, radical. As the principal, I said, but you know what? Access and equity. We need to make sure every student is exposed to advanced placement courses as
Right.
early as possible. So every 10th grade student was enrolled into advanced placement world history. Um,
It,
and
you,
again, pushing that agenda forward, that we're going to have access and equity for all students. And just the last little piece on that, the third piece to kind of making all of that work, was becoming a one-to-one school. So again, wrote another grant. This grant actually got me uh, a instructional technology facilitator, and so this person's full-time job was to work with teachers to support the teachers in transitioning to kind of online learning for students. We have a learning management system in our district, and I was really pushing towards using that and being a paperless school. And I guess, I can see the future because this year, look at what happened.
Right. I was
Um,
gonna say that was a vision, wasn't it?
right. So that school, which I've now left, but they were able to have devices for all of the students because I thought, we got to start working on this. And so over the course of last year, I used all of my available resources to really push purchasing devices so that I could have a Chromebook for every student. So the vision was for the fall of 2019 for every single student at that high school to have a Chromebook that they can take home. And so that was my vision. It's someone else's vision now. They have a new principal who is doing a great job over there. And I'm sure that she's going to keep moving all of those things forward.
So, the position you were in as principal, you took it up a notch because not only were you bold and audacious, but you're a visionary and you brought those things that you had thought would be essential, right, for all students to have by 10th grade AP classes, for the students to have the technology onto campus. And it seems like it was seamlessly, but talk about, were there any struggles in carrying out what you wanted to do?
Yeah, there's always going to be struggles. There's always going to be naysayers. But what I found is that you need to get a cadre of the people that say yes, the people who are excited about coming to work every day, the people that are willing to do whatever it takes to support those students. Once you get those folks on your team and you start pushing forward, the other people will come along, and it's really about setting the tone and setting up an expectation. One of the things that I believed in was shared responsibility for all students. So, Christina, just because a student is in your class and not mine, I'm an adult on this campus. And if that student is doing something that they should not be doing, it is my job to correct that student. And just really knowing that this is a community, and it takes some building. You do have to build community and establish rapport. But as a principal, you're doing that from the very first day that you step into that building, and you're building those relationships with your teachers, with your students, with your parents, and with your faculty and staff, because every person that works at that school is important in the lives of those children on a daily basis. So you need to make sure that you build those relationships and that you celebrate those people, because they will help you lead the work.
And you guys even celebrated your students and your parents in small and big ways, so that they felt welcome when they came on campus. And so talk about what that looked like.
So I'm big on just having fun. Like, I loved being a principal. So every day I woke up with a smile on my face and ready to hit the ground running. And I have a security person at every entrance of the school, and their job, yeah, they're security, campus security, but really they are the welcome wagon. They are the first people that parents see, the first people that students see. So it's all about good morning, how are you doing? We had a great big sign in the front of our school, and it says, "Smile. Today is a great day to be and it had our school mascot." So really saying, yes, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be at this school. I'm proud of my school. And it really, really, really helps with the really just building those relationships. The kids need to know, excuse me, that all of the adults on campus are there for them. And all of my security know students first and last name, not because the kids get in trouble, because we build relationships.
So that relational capacity is huge for parents and students, and just the educators on campus, all the multiple layers that are necessary to have success. And so you had talked about special education and being students being marginalized. And I also know that according to the California data, because we're in California, Black students are next on that list, right? Testing right next to special needs students. And so what did you do to build equity and change for the Black students on campus?
So actually, I want to kind of shift into my new role and talk about some of the work that I've done there around equity. In the community where the schools are located, I have about 13 schools. So we have two directors, and we share these schools, a K through 12 network. And it's a relatively diverse network of schools. However, we do have a pretty large population of African American students. And so we had this idea that we would create an equity symposium, and we would partner with one of our local universities and really build this out to kind of think about what does equity look like for all of our students, but really paying special attention to what work are we doing to support our African American students. And so what it was a it's actually a multi-phase plan. So we've had phase one already, which I'll speak to. Phase two would have happened in April of this year, but with our current pandemic, it's not going to happen. So I'll talk a little bit about our phase one. We wanted every single school in our community to be able to benefit from this, and of course, change comes with us with a strong leader. And so every school within our network of schools, we did ask for the principal to attend, and then also two teachers. And we wanted a really strong teacher who can really support the principal's work and be that teacher leader on the site. But then we also thought about, what about maybe a novice teacher, a teacher that's still really learning how to support students. Maybe it's our second or third year teacher, or maybe it's a teacher that really needs a boost. They're wanting to learn something. They're wanting to develop new skills. And so we brought them all onto a college university for a full day. We called it an equity symposium, and we had breakout sessions that teachers and administrators could attend. One of the presentations that jumped up at me, was it was titled "The Magic in Me," and that was all about valuing the home language of our standard English learners. We did some work around cognitive guided instruction and mathematics, and how that can support our African American students. And another one that we talked about was really oh, it's on the tip of my tongue, and just because I want to
That's
say it,
okay.
well,
So,
I can remember the presenter's name specifically. It was around math and social emotional learning and developing math identity.
right.
That's what it was, because we really want to make sure that our African American students are really excelling in STEM and STEAM courses, and really having a math identity from an early age. That's very important for students to be successful.
Right. And so, what I always take away, and this is just from my role and position in the community and education and being involved in some equity workshops and trainings and things like that, right? I would go with districts or with county office of education as an observer or participant. And so what I took away was always this question of how long is this going to take, right? Everything sounds amazing, but then the question is, how long is this going to take? Is everyone in this space right now in agreement that this is what should be done? Because I would hear conversations in the crowd and it didn't sound like everyone was in agreement, right? Yet I know at the same time that the issues regarding our children, our Black children, are a matter of right now, urgency. We
Mhm.
need to do something different, right? So, how were you able to meet these issues with a matter of urgency?
hmm So, I mean, we always start with the data, and we looked at the data and talked about the data. One of the things that we also did on that day is we had a panelist from the university who's an expert on these various social justice issues. So she had a lot to talk about, which was great. And then we had a moderated panel with principals from that community, and just hearing some of the things that they were doing. Another crucial piece for this symposium was, though, the planning, action, and next steps. So it was great that we had this wonderful day of collaboration and talking about a very important issue, but what are the next steps? So we actually built into the afternoon some planning time for principals and their teams to get together and think about, okay, based on what our learning is for today, what are our next steps? And so one principal who's very dynamic, one of the things that she decided to do when she got back to school was look at referral data. And this is an elementary school principal. And she noticed that African American girls were sent to the office on referrals at a far higher rate than white girls for the same offenses. And so she immediately stopped that practice at her school, and she
Oh,
talked to her
great.
teachers about that and what it looks like. And someone once said, certain students are allowed more grace than others, and making sure that we are equitable about giving every student grace and not penalizing certain students with more frequency than other students.
And I remember a time that I called you during the day, and I think you were on a break, and you had said, I don't suspend the students; they're gonna hug it out, and I so appreciated that. Like, oh wow, like actually this mentality that you're not going home. We're not suspending you here, and so you guys got to work it out, hug it out, because we're family. And so talk about the reduction in behaviors just from not having those extreme or excessive consequences and practices.
Mm-hmm. So I am an opponent of suspension. I really do think that there's a time and place for kids to be suspended, most definitely, but generally no. So you got your big three, and so I won't get into that right now. But if two students engage in a physical altercation for whatever reason, for me, it's important to know what happened, what is the issue that led up to this, how can we resolve it, but then also working with the students, because you have to use this as a teachable moment. At what point in time do you think that maybe you should have talked to an adult and involved an adult in this situation so that this fight would not occur? But you got to go back to your culture. So the principal builds the culture at the school. So if you have a culture where everyone is supposed to get along, they try. And there's been many times that a student has come to me, Dr. Brandy, so and so, they're stressing me out, and I can't take it. Okay, fine, let's work on that. So that takes some time to build that culture. But of course, no matter what, you can't avoid fights at all times. But again, I'm not sending you home because you got into a fight. We need to talk this out, hug it out. Do we need to do a harm repair circle? I'm really an advocate of restorative justice practices. I brought peer counseling back into the school. Lots of work my dean did around conflict resolution, because kids are fighting for a reason, and we don't want to just send them home because you've not resolved the issue that caused the fight. We need to get to the root of the problem and correct that so that they can then move on. And really, again, just letting kids know, you can come talk to me. Kids would go to a security guard on campus and say, you know what, Mr. or Miss, I'm having a problem with so-and-so, they're talking about me. And then, security does bring that to the dean or to the assistant principal, but the kids feel very comfortable sharing those issues so that they can get an adult involved so that they can be better supported.
So you built a school culture and climate around welcoming conversations, not fighting with each other, but trying to work it out. Supporting the parents and the students the best way you guys all could, even from greeting them in the mornings and letting them know we're all a part of this community, that, this is a part of our school environment. The ecosystem is what I like to call it, the culture and climate, the way you operate on that educational environment. Because I always say this, a school is a building. It's the people that enter into that space that make the difference. And so I'm so glad that you were able to enter into that space and you're still thriving as you got your new position. Congrats, all good for you. But I know that it wasn't without some kind of struggle. And we always talk about, merit-based systems. But being Black, we understand that it doesn't always end up the way we think it's going to look. When me or you were taking college classes, at 15, we were taking, government and econ.
Econ, yes.
Right, to get college credit. And we're thinking we're gonna live the American dream, right?
Right.
And so we worked hard. I know you did personally, and I did, just overcoming battles and struggles and everyday things, and part of just living in the community that is marginalized already, right? And then trying to still fight on the university level to be competitive, right? And so talk about how that has transpired and what you are today positionally, how you feel about that.
Right. So it's interesting because we do have a merit-based system here where I work, and there's an exam for various positions, and I have successfully passed all of those exams. But passing an exam, of course, does not guarantee anyone a job. Just like having a degree does not guarantee one a job. And
Right.
so you definitely have to be very persistent. I think the hardest that I ever looked for a job was when I was ready to make this shift to assistant principal. I probably sent out upwards of 25 or 30 resumes over the course of a 1.5, 2 year period. And I did definitely get some interviews, but I didn't get any jobs. And I was really at a point of frustration because I felt like there were people who were far less qualified than I who were getting positions. Here I had completed my
Right.
doctorate in educational leadership at Pepperdine, which is a top school in the nation, and
Hmm.
I was ready to go. But I had to take a step back and do some reflection and understand that anything that's meant for me cannot be taken from me. And
Right.
I had a great mentor who actually just passed away this past year, about 6 months ago. And
Sorry.
he's like, Travis, you're gonna get a job. He said, don't worry. He said, I will support you in any way that I can. And he did, and he really supported me through that process. And actually during that time I was going through some personal issues that you're aware of. And so it was hard. It was like, I want to be great. I have these degrees, I have these credentials, but it seemed like every door was getting shut in my face. But with that support of that mentor, he pushed me in the right direction, and he even guided me through my whole doctoral process when I was ready to give up. I'm a type A person. I'm used to being successful at all times, and I hit a bump in the road, and again he sat me down. Travis, you're better than this. You're bigger than this. This will not hold you up, and you will be able to move past this. And I was, and eventually I did become an assistant principal, and it was an amazing experience at a wonderful school, again, where I was mentored, and I was really prepared to take on the principalship. And so, I reflect and I'm like, whew, I am so glad I didn't get all those jobs that I didn't get, because
Right.
not the job for
Right.
me.
And so, I always like to see the silver lining, like to bring hope. Because I feel the same way, just having that master's in business administration, doing the political science bachelor from the university that I went to. And I'm like, I'm literally watching people that didn't have as much education, right, surpass
Hmm.
positionally when I was looking for like these so-called desired positions that I wanted. And then I had to step back and say, you know what, that's not for me. And I need to take a look and
Right.
see what is. And I love advocating for students and parents. Okay, I would not exchange this for that. So I totally understand what you're saying, and I'm so glad to see you thriving and doing well. Congrats again on all your accomplishments.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate that.
of course, anytime. And so, what does it look like now? Like, you are that visionary, and I know you have to be very innovative and creative day by day in order to support the students in your district. So what does that look like now?
Whew. So we are constantly evolving and changing, and the most important thing that I do is listen to voices from the field. What are the principals saying? What are the teachers saying? What are the parents saying? And what are the students saying? Because they are in those Zoom classrooms. They're in the Google Classroom or Meetup, or whatever particular medium is being used, and really making sure that we are adapting in the correct way and being flexible when we need to be, and also allowing for that grace, for
Mm-hmm.
those folks that need some grace in their life.
And so right now is a great opportunity for parents and families, caregivers. Shout out to the caregivers. I always say that it is so vital to have that extended family, and even people within the family that support parents and children, because you have those layers of support, having each other's backs, and right now is a great opportunity to set some different kinds of norms, because when we come out of this, the children will always remember it, right? And so how can we fortify our kids in a way that when they face these inequities, doing things off of, what you assume to be merit, and you still are watching and like, oh my God, I'm not making it, I'm not good enough. No, it's not that. It's just that that's not meant for you. So what advice would you give to the people watching the Fortify the Children while they're at home?
So always prepare yourself. So education is the key, and that's whether it's a 4-year degree or a certificate from a trade or vocational school, or perhaps an AA. So get that training first and foremost, because that's going to open up a lot of doors for you. Get a mentor. Get someone. If you want a job in a particular field, find someone who's doing great in that field, and ask them to be your mentor, and ask them about what was their path, and what did they do. But the biggest thing is, don't give up.
Right.
Some people do get the first job that they apply for, and that's great for them, but that's not for the average person. So you'd be surprised how many doors you have to knock on before you get a yes. So never get up. Stay the course, and make sure that you have a team of people that that can be supportive of you, that will help to continue to push you when you think that all the cards are stacked against you. Those people in your corner will say, no, you can do it. You got this. You're prepared for it. Let's go get it.
And so I'm always thankful for your advice and wisdom. And I have to say that you practice what you preach, because you and your family were a huge support system to me as a teenager, right? And so,
Yeah,
it was like we're family. And now
absolutely.
that we can have this still into adulthood, it's amazing. And so that support system is just huge, and I value that part of it. Is there a final thought or word that you'd like to share?
My final thought is that, we all want the best for all of our children and all of our school communities. So I just want to make sure that our caregivers and our parents know that there's many resources for them. Christina, I appreciate the work that you do, being that advocate, because you can say things in rooms that other people can't say. And so
Right.
I really appreciate you and value for that work.
Anytime, and I got your back.
All
So
right.
again, thank you for coming. I'm glad that
Thanks
you're
for
well.
having me.
Glad we can have this conversation. We might need to pick it up again. And so
Okay.
I appreciate it. And you have a great day. You guys
You have a
have been
great.
watching.
All right. See you
Thank
later.
you,
Take care. Bye bye.
guys. You have been watching Managing Day to Day with me, Christina Laster, and National Parents Union. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all thriving. Goodbye, America's beautiful children. We love you. We will see you again, same place, same time tomorrow. Goodbye.